who were you before I met you?
Wow. Brown, before you met me, was very confident, was loving, trustworthy, a good friend, a great family person. Naturally, I think I was very dynamic in nature. I had my own core principles of authenticity, community, and contribution that I believed in. And then on top of that, the person that I was, I think was very expressive, right, and loved adventure. I traveled all over the world, had gotten a chance to just experience different cultures, different people, different foods. And then on top of that, it was just interesting because before I met you, I think I was on my own self-awareness journey, right? Trying to figure out who I was at my core. I was focused on specific things, whether it was my relationship with God and my spirituality, my understanding of self when it came down to my emotional awareness, my mental well-being. And then I also had a set of goals for myself, things that I wanted to accomplish within my career, understanding of how I wanted to define my purpose. And then naturally too, as any man would be, I knew that I wanted a family, somebody that I can build a life with, a female that I knew specifically that was gonna love me unconditionally for who I was. And I was just very fortunate that I actually thought about these things before I got a chance to meet you. And so by the time I did get a chance to meet you, I was very self-aware and actually ready to receive you. And thank God that we got a chance to meet, because now you get to see who I am, in totality. And I'm just super fortunate that you haven't asked me to be anybody else but myself. What about you? What do you think?
Before I met you, I've always been very loving and nurturing, very much grounded in my spirituality. I am a family person. I love my family, and I've been heavily focusing on my career, always career driven. In the past 3 years prior to meeting you, leading up to who I've always been, I was focused on my purpose and my place in the world. Just navigating between beauty, fashion, and travel. I wanted to understand who I was as an African American woman living in the United States. Mm-hmm. So I went on a self-discovery journey. I went to Africa a few times to, one, trace my heritage, but to two, because I was interested in the beauty business of shea butter and a travel club. Mm-hmm. I lived a very full life prior to meeting you. I was always in dance and yoga and doing modeling things, heavily into work. And I knew that I was ready for the next chapter of my life, and I really wanted love. And I never really put love first. I always focused on career, family, but I needed to kind of purify some things in myself if I wanted to attract the type of man that I wanted. So I did a lot of soul searching, and I was just spiritually grounded and asking God to bring me my partner.
Well, that's good. It sounds like we're both aligned on that. Do you want to tell them how we met, or should I?
How did we meet? Interesting. Well, we met in Africa, which is so interesting. They say when you follow your purpose, you will find your person. Mm-hmm. And I found you. Well, you found me rather, or we found each other.
Well, God said.
Right, amen. But no, we met in Africa, in Ghana specifically, and I recall meeting you when I was hanging out with my friend Cheryl, who's a lawyer, who happened to be Afrochella, your friend Abdul, which is like a brother to you, his lawyer. And by us being friends and me being there for business, and she's on business, I met up with her at an event called Afrobeat and Brunch or something. And I remember at this event, we were just hanging out and having food and just chilling. And she wanted to go to the ladies' room. And as girls, I was like, I'll go to the powder room with you. I'll go with you. And on the way back, she saw a group of guys, and she's like, oh, I just want to say hi to my friends. And I'm like, okay. So we went to say hello. And the minute we got closer and closer, this weird energy just came over me. I was like...
Weird, or?
It was strange because I couldn't identify it at the time.
Okay.
So I'm calling strange weird. But it was something I couldn't identify. And it was just this undescribable energy. I remember when we went over, I told her, you know what? Hello, I'm gonna go back to the table. I'm gonna just meet you over there. And you must have leaned into her and said, introduce me to your friend.
That's exactly what it was, actually. Yeah, you're right.
And she didn't tell me that till after. She was like, oh, Staci, this is Brown. Brown, this is Staci. And I remember looking at you. And I remember looking at you, and I was just like, he's so fine. And I was just like, okay. So I looked at your statue, and I just thought you were fine. But outside of your looks, it was the energy that was undescribable, and I didn't know what that energy was. And that was the first time I remember actually meeting you, like a formal introduction.
You know, it's, I guess your memory's a little different, but I can't say it's wrong, but it's a little different. Only because I remember meeting you in a different circumstance. I remember meeting you actually at Afrochella. When I was there, I was just, typically, as I am trying to help out my friends, and I had asked Kenny what help he needed at the event. And during that event, he said he needed some help with like the entrance, helping people to get in and kind of get situated. So at that point, I was stationed actually at the VIP door entrance. And I just remember it was just a packed day. I'm talking about, this was the biggest crowd that they ever had, about 16,000 folks. So I'm like, man, this is a lot. But, I'm in the front, and I remember a girl coming up to me, and I believe she was you. And I specifically remember the line that was used was, hey, I know there's a massive line outside, but I have a bunch of friends inside, and I'm, looking for them. Can you help me by just getting me in? And I looked at the line, and I'm like, you know what? You should call your friend, because I'm not letting you in, right? And surprisingly, at some point, you were a little bit frustrated, because I remember you having cupcakes in your hand, and I believe it was around Cheryl's birthday or something of the sort, so you were probably going to celebrate. And I was just like, all right, you know what? Since you're trying to tell me that you have a good story here, I will believe you, but you got to go under this railing and kind of come in. And I think based off of how you were dressed, you told me, like, no, I'm not going to go under the railing.
Yeah.
And so impressively enough, I remember that specifically being the first time we met. So I wasn't surprised that the next time we got a chance to really interact, I asked Cheryl to introduce me to you. So
I do remember a guy, and then I'm realizing he was a big guy, like a bouncer, and I didn't even think about it that it was you.
Yes, big instruction. Yes.
And he, please. And then he said, go under the rail, and I'm just like, I'm not crawling under anything to get up in this place. I was kind of like into that vibe at the moment. But long story short, I got in, we had a good time, so
I mean, and that's all that matters. At least we know we both met on our own time.
So you saw me first.
I saw you first. Our whole dating experience was pretty different, wasn't it? Do you remember our first date?
I do, but I feel like it was a series of dates.
It was a series of dates, you're right.
Because we were in Africa and we're working but on vacation, I saw you at like multiple events. But I remember what I consider our first outing, I would say, before the first date. The first outing, I remember really connecting with you at African Royalty Night.
African Royalty Night, you're right. In the garb. And I remember, again, I pulled up, the girls were there. And I remember walking in and coming in, and I just felt like a very Black African Cinderella moment. Because I remember coming into like a garden and like coming down some steps, and it was just beautiful. It was a poet up, it was live music, it was food, it was just a great vibes. And I saw you, and I was just like, oh, he's here, okay. And you made your way over to talk to me, and we were talking, because every time you saw me at events, it was just so funny. You would like come over and give like the fake church hug, like, hey, hi, but really want to be close. And I loved African Royalty Night because you got to see everyone like not just partying, but like really as adults and relaxed. Regal, right? And you had some incident that night, and you came over to me and you told me about the incident. I'm like, wait, that wasn't nice. This person needs to apologize. Like, let me just tell my friend Cheryl, that, her friend offended him and whatever it was. And we got an apology, and I remember taking pictures, and we got to talking. And what was interesting about it is you started to tell me about your charity event, and that you were going to be giving out sneakers the next day. Right, I did, yeah.
Yeah, and you was asking me about charity, and you found out that I had a village in the north, and I was heavily into charity. So I think we kind of connected there, because you was like, wait, she's American and she's doing charity in Ghana. And
in Tamale, yeah.
In Tamale,
yeah.
And that you asked me, you said, so what are you doing tomorrow? And I'm like, oh, is it about to happen? You about to ask me out? And you said, well, I have a charity event and I want you to come and help, and I'm looking for people to come and help, but I really want you to come along. I think you'll like it. And I'm like, I would love to come. And I said, well, I can tell my friends, I can tell my girls, if you need more help, they can come too. The buddy system, safety system. And you were, no, I only have room for just one. I was like, oh, okay. And I came, and the crazy thing was, we hung out all night, closed the place down. Do you remember? What time did we leave?
Like 5 o'clock, actually. It was myself, you, Cheryl, Emilio, and Sam. And I remember we put you in a cab to go home. And it's interesting because I do remember, because that was our very first real conversation, even after being introduced.
Yeah.
And I remember African Royalty Night because you definitely looked great in your African-inspired outfit.
Thank you.
And I knew that I had my garb on. They had the King's Throne and everything there.
Yeah.
And the food was amazing. The performances were awesome. But I think what I really found super dope about our first core interaction was how nurturing you were in that moment when I was, had a little bit of a scenario that went down, and you actually were very mindful and very attentive and just very, helpful. But the awesome part is that night is when we actually really got a chance to start talking a little bit more. We danced a little bit, right? You
we
got
were
a chance.
freaking matching. That was what was weird. Like, we had similar colors on, similar prints on. You would have thought we were a couple that was just like two print down, like the African print. Like, we were.
It looked good.
It looked good, but it was funny because I didn't expect to coordinate, and it was like every event was like that.
Right. And I remember that when I had put you in that cab at 5 a.m., I didn't expect you to actually show up. But you went home, you showered, and then, 3 hours later, you were at my front door saying, hey, where are we? We're going.
No sleep.
No sleep.
All for the kids.
That's typical Ghana, no sleep.
Yeah.
Christmas time. But one thing I will say is that I was very fortunate that you came. We got a chance to actually visit the school, and be able to serve, right? And I think one of the awesome parts about that experience is that it kind of goes down as the memorable side of us, right? Our approach to just being human and kind of, always looking to be a part of the solution and never the problem.
We learned that we had to break chains, become the new link, rebuild, and build a bridge.
We choose to be together because we recognize the power of our unity.
Rooted through faith, guided through authenticity, freedom, creativity,
and focus on growth, community, and contribution.
One of the things that I hope for is that everyone recognizes that, our union has just been so dynamic and just such full of different experiences that we can't really wait for you guys to come and experience our engagement and our wedding with us in Ghana. And we just really look forward to you guys being a part of that journey as well.
I feel like we're the perfect door that can provide access. And you guys now have the keys, and come on home. Come return.
Ghana, 12/23/23, December. We'll see you there.